The COYGIG Pod on OTB Sports, in association with Cadbury. A player and a half deserves a glass and a half of support.
Top pocket goal!
It's what dreams are made of.
They are going to the World Cup Finals!
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the COYGIG Podcast. I am Kathleen McNamee, and as ever I am joined by former Ireland internationals Emma Byrne and Peanut captain Karen Duggan. Gals, how are we? How was the weekend? Karen, you had one off. Well, I don't know, you were probably training and stuff. You were
No,
playing.
I did nothing. It was glorious. There was no football. That's why I'm
Apart from
smiling.
all football on TV.
Compared to last week, I'm much happier.
You do seem a bit more bright-eyed and bushy-tailed than the last time.
Less depressed would be what you should go for, but yeah, pretty much, yeah.
I was just trying not to hammer it home after last week, to be honest.
Thanks. At least one person's nice to me, Emma.
Well, I was going to just tell you to retire. Like, that's my advice.
Yeah, that's usually my go-to, to be fair. I do love a good retirement.
I mean, if you're feeling great after no more football the weekend, it's a really good sign that you should.
Yeah, I know. No, we're back on track now this week. Back training tonight. We have a busy schedule before the well, it's not a break, it's into that weird cup thing, the All Ireland Cup. That'll be interesting, but we've a hard run in. We've Treaty Galway, who are joint top with us. Treaty Galway, Athlone, Shells and Rovers before the break. So I better get my happy to be playing football hat back on today.
That is busy, and I do love the sell for the whatchamacallit, the All Ireland Cup thingy, as you called it. I mean, that's going to build all our listeners' excitement to watch it.
No, I'm sure it will be interesting. We don't have a draw or anything for it yet, but we have a lot of important games to get through before then. So that's the focus for now. Also, usually that's our mid-season break, so I'll be looking forward to the June break. But I'm sure it'll be interesting.
It'll be something different, which will make it seem more entertaining than just playing regular league matches or possibly having a break.
No, nothing is more exciting than the break. But anyway.
Emma, how did you spend your weekend?
My weekend traveling as usual. I flew back from Dublin on Saturday, and then just at sushi. That was the highlight of my weekend. Yeah,
you were put to work while you were in Ireland. I saw.
I was, yeah. I mean, not work. You know, I love going visiting the young teams and trying to motivate them. Yeah, I was in. I went up to the Kildare minor training because my niece is a goalkeeper for Kildare. She's playing, and they have a really big game coming up on the 17th. I might as well plug it against Longford. I hope I have that right. And just went down for a little motivational talk and we did a little session, which I wasn't really prepared for because I was wearing jeans, so I looked absolutely ridiculous. And then I went out to watch the training in Abbottstown for the Irish team, which I've never seen or never been to. So that was interesting to see this young talent emerging. It was good. Apart from everything else I did when I was in Ireland, which, yeah.
It's not as wholesome.
No, exactly. We won't mention any of that.
Were you whispering words of encouragement to the ones in Abbottstown, or were you strictly there as an observer?
No. I just went to watch, that's all. Went to watch Anya, like literally the only player I really knew. They're so young, it's crazy. I know I'm an L one, but Christ... Anya was the only one I've ever actually, well, I played with Eve Bandana, goalkeeper, but realistically one of the only players out there that I've set foot on a football pitch with, which was a little bit sad, but that's how it is. Yeah, they had a little internal game, so that was good to watch.
You're getting all the state secrets ahead of the World Cup.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I'll be able to talk about these players that coming on, or the bench players. A few really good players. Actually, there's a couple that I'd never seen involved that I thought were really good, really promising players.
Future is bright.
What's that?
I just said there. Well, I said there you have it, folks. I'm going. I feel like Karen said something actually intelligent.
No,
Emma Byrne tips
can
the
always
future
assume I
of
didn't
Irish
hear.
football to be bright.
No, it will. There's a load of young ones coming through. Like I said it before, like the level that they're at is much higher than what we were at when we were that age, because they're starting much younger. Just everything is more set up for them now. So if we can keep things like the home-based training going well, and I know Emma is a big advocate of the linking up with the schools and getting more game time in there, kind of the academy set up. I think that there is a lot of talent coming through, and it'll probably grow again once the World Cup starts. So just about keeping the foot down now.
And that is Karen's call to arms to make sure that we don't let this go past us, and that the FAI keep their promises to actually make sure that everyone in the country benefits from the World Cup and not just those who are on the squad. Yeah, I had spent a very interesting Friday at the 50th anniversary celebrations for the 1973 team, the first ever women's national team. And it was just so like, I don't know, I'd never been to something like that where it was just celebrating a team in all its entirety. And like, to the FAI's credit, they put on a fair spread. Unfortunately, I was kicked out before the meal actually began, but I did sneak into the dining room to have like a little look around at all the like pretty crystal and different things that they had put out for the players. But it was just so lovely because so this Saturday, for anyone who doesn't know, who might be listening, is the anniversary of the first ever game that the women's national team played against Wales in 1973, so 50 years ago. And they were having this as a special commemorative event for that team to mark the 50 years. And also the fact that none of them were ever given official caps. They were told if they wanted a cap, they could buy one for themselves, and it would cost £40, which at the time was quite a lot of money and shouldn't have been an issue anyways. But it was just so lovely because like women were coming in and seeing each other in the lobby for the first time in maybe like 30 or 40 years. And they'd be like, is that Karen Duggan? Is that cute Karen Duggan? And they'd be like, oh my God, it's Emma Byrne. And they were just like jumping and hugging each other. And it was just a really lovely celebration. And I interviewed a couple of them, like Norm Pugh, who was the first ever captain of the Irish squad. And you could just tell they were all kind of like delighted they were being celebrated, but at the same time a bit like, we don't really understand what all the big fuss is for us.
This will tell you how wild my weekend was. I actually saw them on the Late Late Show and they look great crack.
They were so fun. Like I fully was like, please can I have all your numbers? I want to go for a pint with you and just talk about football and your lives. Like so interesting. Like even Nora, when I said to her, I was like, oh, you know, was it a career highlight captaining the first ever women's team? She was like, yeah, no, it's definitely up there. I also won 2 All-Irelands with Galway though, and I'm like an Irish cross country medalist as well, so you know they would be up there too. And I was like, the lives you women have lived. And if you Google her name, like nothing comes up about her apart from after like the last on Friday, the event that was the first like only articles that started going up about her. So really incredible women. I interviewed a lot of them, which are on Off the Ball, the football feed, wherever you normally get your podcasts. And I would really recommend anyone who is interested in women's football going and listening to them, not to hear me blabber on to these women, but just they had great stories, they had great advice for any like young footballers, anyone looking to play football. And it's nice to commemorate these things because, as we know, in the past, we haven't always had the opportunity to mark these occasions. That's my little spiel.
I think it's fantastic. It needs to be done. I certainly need to learn more about these women, and I just feel like it's such a shame that I didn't have any role models growing up when there were role models out there that we just didn't know about. I was commentating on a game and I had to look into the history, and there was a player, Anne O'Brien, you probably have heard of her. Anyway, she went to Italy to play, one of the first ever female footballers to play professional, and she was incredible. Played with all the top players, Bia, Sundage, all, and you know, there's a player in Italy as well that spoke so highly of her. Unfortunately, she passed away. But again, like just an incredible footballer, an incredible athlete that I felt really sad that I didn't know much about. So yeah, it's a great thing. Celebrate them.
Definitely, and we will try and do something more on the anniversary next week podcast club. So there's not a full WSL weekend. We have FA Cup, which we will definitely do a bit of a roundup on, but it'd be definitely good to tell some of these stories. Or if anyone listening here as well, because I know I once put out a call on my Twitter for great stories that people had of like their family members or, you know, sisters, friends, whoever it is that played football back in the day when maybe there wasn't the same sort of supports there are now. Please do get in touch with us. We always love hearing these sort of stories, and we definitely want to commemorate them all, no matter how big the contribution or how small the contribution was to Irish football, because we're all about the celebrations over here. Speaking of celebrations, one to bring to everyone's attention as well. Just if you're around Dublin on Wednesday, the World Cup trophy is going to be on display at the Round Room in the Mansion House from 3 to 6 o'clock. So you can go along, get your picture taken. Imagine Katie McCabe raising it above her head in Australia, because that's definitely going to happen. But yeah, it's just one of the nice events that are coming up to mark the World Cup trip. Coming up next, we will have our team of the week, and then a little bit later on in the show, we will have full analysis of the weekend's action. The COYGIG podcast on OTB Sports is sponsored by Cadbury FC, official snack partner to the Republic of Ireland women's national team. We shall have Emma Carroll up with us next. Now we are joined by Emma Carroll for our favourite feature of the week, which is the team of the week. Emma, how are you doing this week?
I'm not too bad. All the 2 o'clock kickoffs though are a real pain. So I try dual screen and watch, to be honest. I like them when they're staggered out.
I never know how you do
properly.
team of the weeks with like the games that start at the same time, because I'm like, the few times I've done it, no matter how hard I try to watch multiple games at the same time, it's one thing like picking out talking points, I feel, and it's an entirely other thing actually having to pick out players on positions. So as ever, you have my sympathies. But would you like to run through your team, and then we can get into how well we think you did or did not do with all those kickoffs at the same time?
I've went for Leipzig in goal again for Leicester. Hines, Bonner and Bagier at the back. Hansen, Borisa, Galton, Manham, Wrighton, kind of in a 2-3-ish formation, 5 midfield, whatever formation you want to put it in. Daly and Harder is back up front.
Yeah, it's rare we get someone coming on as a sub and making team of the week, but I think she came on and also got player of the match in that game. So
first touch she scored with, I think.
Yeah, it's very impressive.
2 goals and an assist.
Just probably when strength and depth is going to be questioned on all the top teams, Chelsea have a powerhouse to come back, and that will probably be the difference, I think, in the end. So deserving of her place. She probably could have even got more if they'd squared a few more balls to her. But yeah, it's good to see her back after her injury.
Yes, absolutely. No qualms here about this team. I think you've done very well, Emma. You need my approval. I approve.
We'll take it.
There were lots and lots of good performers, I think. And absolutely Leipzig's quality. She's absolutely brilliant. Love her. I thought Mariette Earps as well did really well. You know, those
that
little
double
saves.
save, double save she made was brilliant, and like you could see what a clea sheet kind of meant to them as well.
13 clean sheets as well, which I think might be a record. So
she's class. But Bagier, always, she can get in there every week. They still don't play her enough, however. I think Bonner, Roberts, Matthews, Liverpool, any of those could get in. I thought those were absolute quality to keep Bunny Shaw quiet. Like, they completely marked her out of the game. I thought they were excellent.
Very rare we say that, isn't it?
Very rare, very rare. Even when she was dropping into midfield and she had to get on the ball, either Bonner or Matthews or Roberts were going in with her and putting pressure on her. Borisa did well. I thought she did well for United.
Yeah, considering her limited game time,
I thought she and then the rest great. Galton, absolutely brilliant goal. She's the queen of the outside of the foot.
Quality finish.
Oh, what a finish.
She's quality. Hansen has just been going from strength to strength. What a great signing for Villa she's been. Like, probably for me one of their best signings. Monum class goal, and it's great to see Harder back. Daly's quality. Daly is just going on to another level. So
20
yeah,
goals, like first thing she's the first English person to reach
first
that.
player to reach that. Yeah, so
She's got to play
and
up front for England, doesn't she?
she probably still needs to score another couple because Shaw could still catch her for the golden boot in the next couple of games.
well,
There's a race on.
But we
Yeah.
spoke about this, didn't we? About the difference of the quality of balls into both of these players. Like Shaw gets balls in from Hemp and Chloe Kelly. Like they've the most crosses in the whole league. So that's telling you something. Basically, she's got the players around her for her to have great, service. But Daly just gets onto things that she shouldn't be getting onto. She creates things that she shouldn't be creating. So I think
she goes looking to get involved in the game. I think she had a couple of assists in the game this week as well. Like she's such a handful. Her movement
3
is
goals, 2 assists when you win 5-0.
kind of one of those players that if you're putting them in front of a young player, you'd say watch her for her movement and how she involves herself in the game. She's class. And then Manham just popping up with the goods again when Arsenal needed her most. Like, obviously Arsenal deserved to win it based on their possession, but they were struggling to get past Leipzig, and it took that quality of Manham to do something like that. And she's been outstanding for Arsenal all season, really.
I was watching the game and I literally said, like, just maybe 10 minutes before Manham scored, I was like, I feel like if Arsenal are going to get a goal in this, it's going to need to be a screamer from someone, because Leipzig was just having such a good game. It felt like she was so comfortable in there. And then when Manham lined up for that shot, I was like, I knew it had to be something that was vaguely spectacular to actually get past her. She was having such a good game. And the fact that, like, something that, I don't know, sometimes hasn't always worked for Arsenal has been that sort of like tactical shift of players in the middle of a game, like Manham starting out in midfield and then moving up a bit. Hasn't always, sometimes she's kind of played her way out of a game rather than into it, but I think it was impressive from her to see her actually use the versatility that we know she can have, and hopefully it becomes a bit more consistent in her style.
Yeah, having said that, I did think that Leicester pressed extremely well. Like they did really well defensively, and they kept their shape as well. So it was difficult for Arsenal. And also coming back off that hangover from Champions League must have been really tough for them. I know they've a lot to play for, but that was a heartbreaking game. Like it's really difficult to come back and play. They're nearly better off playing a United or a Chelsea, like a team that they know they have to be in the game. Whereas Leicester, they would have been forgiven to think that they were going to get an easy win in that game as well. So,
well, on paper, we would have said that a few weeks ago, but given how much Leicester now do have to play for, I thought it was a massive 3 points for Arsenal to get that today. I'd say they were so relieved, because I think Beattie even said it after the match, the physical and emotional toll that game took was huge. So I'd say they were more than happy to come away with a 1-0 win.
Emma, I know we were chatting a little bit earlier, Emma Carroll, about Liverpool and their general performance. For you, you actually did say at one stage that it could just be a full starting 11 of Liverpool players, which I wouldn't have begrudged you, because I know you've been waiting a while to do that. But what was it about the players that you picked for the team that kind of stood out for you, and I suppose the performance in general?
I think particularly towards the end of the game when City were just piling on the pressure, Bonner even headed away everything that came into the box. And then Hines particularly had a great tackle in the box as well, which, had she got it wrong, would have been a penalty, but timed it excellent. I think Faye Kirby as well in goal, for a young goalkeeper that just made her debut against Chelsea last week and then into a City game as well. She could have been in there as well. She made some good saves.
Especially because after, in the first couple of minutes, she nearly handed them a goal. She nearly got lost, but I thought she was confident for the rest of the game. So that's a big credit to her character, and someone maybe that will be watching in the future.
Yeah, and Missy Bo-Kearns as well gets the goal, and she's looking brighter as well. One to watch as well, youngster coming through as well. Good to see Leanne Kearns as well, and Nifahi on the bench. So hopefully they'll make their comeback soon enough. Like I know Baird said Kiernan will be probably fighting for her chance to play in the World Cup, and he hopes to give her minutes before the end of the season. So that would be good to see as well. Yeah,
I hope she makes it. I think we need attacking options, and if we're going to play Heather Payne on the wing back, she gives us the pace option. So I'd love if she was able to stake a claim for that squad.
We'll have to see what Vera Powell thinks, because she's never really been a fan of Erin Kiernan. But I know we talked a little bit about her there, but Pernilla Harder coming back after the injury, coming on, getting all the scores and the assists that she did, does that kind of put to rest, but does it lessen some of the criticism that we've heard of her this season, that maybe she is not as good as a player as she used to be? Was this just off season where she had the injuries and probably never really got the opportunity to properly get going? Or is there some merit to the criticism that she's faced this season?
None. Who says that? Who said that? I want to know who said that. Of course not. She's had a really difficult season. She's a runner. She's been exactly what Chelsea'd been missing. I've been talking about Chelsea not playing great football, scraping through games, just, knowing how to win games. But the reason is because Pernille Harder has been injured. She's the link-up play. You could see that. Chelsea have gone from not sure if they're going to win, they should win, but let's see if Sam Kerr can score, to a team that I feel sorry for United, because Chelsea are finding their feet now, and if they can keep those players fit and ready for the cup final, then United, for me, won't really have a chance. And that I would never have said that in the last few months. I would have said United can challenge for that easily. But judging by what Chelsea were like the other day,
they were able to rotate and rest the players for next week.
Yeah, I mean, the players that started for Chelsea that I wouldn't have considered one of the, their best players were absolutely class. I mean, Jankovic is a really good player. She is. We said that at the start of the season, but she just looked so comfortable there. And then even Canrid, for me, I would have said, she's good, she's okay, but she looked really, really strong. And that's not even talking about the players that came on, like Erin Cuthbert and that. So if I were United looking at that game, I wouldn't be best pleased. But it's all about Harder for me. Just her movement in the box is she's just so clever. And the press as well from Chelsea starts from her. She's so good at that. So you're talking about in defense and in attack. What a big player she is. I don't know what Chelsea will do when she leaves next season, though.
Hope Fran Kirby is fit.
Well, Emma, thank you very much for your latest team of the week. I think we can all agree it was a very good one.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Now, as we have been hyping up the league, got even more interesting this weekend with important results at both the top and the bottom of the table. And I mean, it's hard to know where to start, but I feel like we kind of have to go with Liverpool 2, Manchester City 1. Not a result anyone saw coming, although someone did point out to me today that Liverpool do love a big surprise result around the time of big royal events like the Queen's death and the coronation. So maybe they were a little bit inspired. Who knows? But Karen, you're smiling away there at this result. How did you approach it? How did you find it?
Yeah, well, I'm smiling from a Manchester United viewpoint and a Champions League nearly in the bag viewpoint. Realistically, it all but ends City's title charge, just based on the fact that you don't see Chelsea slipping up in any way. If United can now afford to lose 2 games and still get Champions League because of their goal difference, which is obviously huge for them. But Man City will be really disappointed. They didn't look like the team that had won 14 on the trot. They're a bit lackluster, but I won't take away from Liverpool either. They just got it right in terms of when they needed to press high, and then at the end when they needed bodies back, they were very, very resilient. And that's big, coming off the back of what happened. The Leicester game obviously was a 4-0 pumping. Matt Beard won't have been happy with that. And then to have gone so close with Chelsea during the week, you'd forgive them for maybe not being 100% in this game. But they were. and City allowed them to be. Laura Coombs obviously gifted them the 1-0 win, and that kind of got Liverpool's backs up, probably got their belief into the game. So great win for Liverpool. Really just a killer one for City, based on how good they were looking, and how it looked like they were going to be the team to challenge.
Emma, you've very much been on the Manchester City hype train this season. For you, was this a thing of like the team taking their eye off the ball? Was it tactical from Gareth Taylor? What was the thing that went wrong?
I still think they're a great footballing team. Personally, I think this might be down. Well, it's a few things, really. I think Alex Greenwood looked like she's carrying an injury. I think she wasn't the same player the other day as she was during the season. So I think that was a problem. In this type of game, in this time of the season, you cannot gift goals. And I think it was a massive, massive error from Laura Coombs. And with a team like Liverpool, who are so dogged and who are now hitting form, it's really difficult to come back from that. But when they did come back from it in that looping header from Hemp, City didn't kick on. And I just feel like that's the time for City when to make a substitution. And I think all of the problems that City have had are the times of substitutions. And Gareth Taylor generally doesn't really make subs. And I think that's a problem, because I think he should have changed it way earlier. Also, I'm not sure about team selection. I think they've got great players, but when you've got a natural left back on the bench in Leyla Habi, I think you should use her, coming from Barca. I know he likes to bring his fullbacks into midfield, but sometimes you need to mix that up as well. Like sometimes get the width on the pitch. And also, if a player is not in form or not, who's kind of disappearing in the game, which I thought Laura Coombs did, even though she nearly scored in the first few minutes, I think it's time to change her. Dana Castellanos came on. She changed the game a little bit. They needed that flair. They needed someone to come in and control that number 10 position and start creating, but they needed it earlier. They just didn't have enough time. They would have went on to win it if they'd another 10 minutes, which it was a 9-minute extra. An extra time, but I feel like City would have went on to win it, which for me means why weren't decisions made a little bit earlier?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about the width and having Uhabi on the wing, because Liverpool really did bank up towards the end of the game, and they were never going to be able to really play through them. So it was about getting really good quality deliveries into the box, getting Hemp to maybe pull players out of position, move in, and then try and get Shaw in on crosses. And they were just a bit slow getting the ball into the box, and it allowed Liverpool to get their centre-backs in great positions, and they defended it really, really well. But yeah, they just looked like they couldn't summon the energy. So that's when you do need to make substitutions. And yeah, like Emma said, very different to what happened in the Chelsea match, where it was sub. Let's get going. Let's see.
Emma Hayes is definitely, I think that's the one thing we can say. She's definitely not afraid to change things, like whether it's 10 minutes.
She said in her post-match that she was really disappointed with the first 20 minutes, and you wouldn't be surprised if Emma Hayes made a sub after 20 minutes, whereas that would be unheard of. Like even 20 minutes to go for Gareth Taylor.
You'd nearly be ready to come off if you knew you were having a stinker in the first 10 minutes. Like as soon as the action on the sideline, you'd be like, oh crap, that's me. I'm coming off. Whereas with City, they know they're not going to get changed. I mean, I feel like Gareth Taylor, who I think has done a really good job considering what's happened this season, by the way, just let me say that, because I know
he was under pressure.
Yeah. But also I have to criticize him for decision making in the games that City should be winning games. And in this one particularly, it did need a change, because nobody was really grabbing the bull by the horns. Nobody was really creating that. Like for me, I would have been going absolutely crazy on that pitch, knowing that this is losing the league and also definitely losing the Champions League. Well, it could have been opposite. Definitely losing the league and probably losing the Champions League spot. I mean, that's massive. It's a huge, huge game against a team that you should be beating and can beat. But the problem is they're match winners, which is Bunny Shaw, Chloe Kelly, and Lauren Hemp. that they just weren't in it, because Bunny Shaw wasn't getting the service. Lauren Hemp wasn't getting the ball in because she didn't have width, so it was easy to read her. Whereas if she has someone overlapping or underlapping, at least she's going to be free and have the opportunity to change it up a little bit. So I just felt like it should have been changed a little bit quicker. And I did think when Dana Castellanos came on, she made a difference.
Well, Liverpool could still have a say in the title race, even though they're not really playing friends in themselves anymore, because they play United on the final day. So it could be an interesting couple of weeks.
They're not going to take the foot off against United. They'll want to make a mark on that just because of the history of the rivalry there. But fair play to Liverpool. They'll be looking to finish strong, because again, now it's about nearly attracting players and seeing how they can build their squad for next season as well.
Definitely. And speaking of United and not taking the foot off the pedal, they had a lovely 3-0 win over Tottenham. But for me, this match was a lot more about how bad Tottenham were than necessarily how good United were. Karen,
how often have we said that this season about Spurs games? I mean, they had a couple of chances early on to make a mark on the game, but they're so loose at times. They give players so much space. I think for the third goal, that's kind of like an epitome of that. Russo comes out, she's allowed to stop, turn. Galton doesn't even make a sprint, and she chips it over the top to her. Galton has time to get the cross in. Two defenders go for the same ball, and it falls to Nikita Paris, who's 4'0". And yeah, it just kind of typified what's wrong with Spurs, and we're praising the likes of Liverpool and even Brighton got their pressing a bit better this week, and Spurs just haven't. It's interesting as well, the likes of Neville on the bench, like in a game where you want to get in United's faces. And
I don't understand why she's been benched so much. Like in the
they need a manager. They need a new manager to go in there, because Spurs are one of these teams that really disappointing, because they started quite well, but it could be just a turn of a manager, just something happening, and they could be up there taking points off the top teams, because they have the players, they have the potential. They need to get a new manager in there, someone that's going to, organize them, and they need to eliminate the mistakes. They make so many mistakes, and at this level, I don't really understand it. They don't even want to get on the ball. The midfielders don't want to get on the ball.
The first two goals.
I wanted to get on the ball. I was a goalkeeper. I was like, give me the ball. He used to play back to me when there'd be a pass on to the number 9. I don't understand it. Get on the ball.
Yeah. No, it's time to go back to the drawing board, I think, for Spurs. Just make sure that they're safe and go again next year, because there wasn't too much to shout home about. I suppose we mentioned Earps made a couple of good saves, but you kind of felt if United needed to score another one that they possibly could have as well.
They'd want to get on it fairly quickly, because 3 points ahead of Reading at the bottom of the table at the moment. And I know Reading do probably look like the most likely team to go down, but we also said that about Leicester, and after a run of a couple of good games, that has changed again. So I feel like with the way the relegation battle is this season, you can't really take anything for granted at all. Do you think the 3-0 relatively easy win will set United up okay for the FA Cup, or would you have preferred a bit more of a challenge ahead of facing Chelsea, Karen?
I don't think it matters, to be honest, either way. They had a really big challenge against Villa last week. You could say that maybe they didn't have to overexert themselves against Spurs, and they'll have rested bodies for that game, but I think that'll be more about how Chelsea turn up, and whether Chelsea are as tired as they were against Liverpool, which I don't think they will be now. I was very, very hopeful, a couple of weeks ago, but again, just looking at how good Chelsea are, it's a massive, massive ask for United, and there are still a few bits in United. They overcommitted a little bit at times, and Letizia had to make a great tackle in the first couple of minutes to keep a clean sheet, and there was a couple of times where they were scrambling back a bit, and if they do that against the likes of Kerr or Harder, it'll be in the back of the net. So I think United will have to be a little bit more conservative than they were in the last couple of games if they're to mount a challenge against Chelsea. But I also would commend them because I had a feeling that they wouldn't hold their nerve in the Champions League race, and they have done. The last 2 games, again, every point is big, but I think that they've showed bottle that maybe they didn't show last season, which is great and a testament to how the squad is developing. And I think they could continue to be runners in the WSL along with your Arsenals and Chelsea.
Do you think it would be a successful season for United to just qualify for the Champions League?
I think realistically, yes.
But now?
Yes.
Being top of the table, being in the FA Cup final,
I think United could win the rest of their games, but Chelsea also will. And there haven't been too many silly dropped points, I would say, by United.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
So that is a big difference, yeah.
It feels shockingly similar to the conversation I've had with so many people about Arsenal in the Premier League.
Yeah, it's about how good Chelsea are, like it is in the men's side. It's about how good City are. Obviously, Arsenal has been a bit more, their implosion is a bit more visible. Like the United, if they do go second, it will just be about Chelsea, realistically. But I think they can. I mean, it's still an improvement on last year. Yeah. Champions League football, again, it'll allow them to maybe attract more players, like because they are going to lose big players as well, which is that's the problem. United need Champions League.
And speaking of Chelsea, they obviously beat Everton 7-0. Disappointing score for Everton because we have talked a bit about how that younger squad has been doing quite well. Some worry in the Australia camp, some glimmers of hope in the Irish camp when Sam Kerr went off after 32 minutes, but Emma Hayes said she had just been sick the night before and that she had cramps. So not that you wish a serious injury on anyone at all. And in terms of goals, Kerr, Wrighton, Harder, Ingle, Fleming, Cuthbert. Harder got her first goal with her first touch, scored a second, assisted, and I feel like this kind of sums up how Chelsea played, and I love that Emma Hayes said she was disappointed afterwards, but 5 shots on target by the end of the first half and 5 goals, which shows that maybe a clinicalness we haven't necessarily seen from Chelsea at like all stages this year.
Yeah, I think they only had 11 shots on target and 7. That's a pretty good return. It was just complete dominance, really, wasn't it? I don't know.
They punished them. They absolutely punished them.
Everton left a lot of space out, particularly on the left wing. I thought Finnegan had a rough time over there early doors, and when the floodgates opened, they opened wide.
Yeah. I mean, I actually thought Everton played all right. I mean, it's strange to say, after conceding 7 goals, I actually think they played quite well. Like I thought Vi, a left back, played well. I thought Sorensen, she's a good player, by the way. If she's not on a long contract, somebody needs to sign her. I would sign her. But just it's nothing about Everton. It's nothing about Courtney Brosnan's conceding 7 goals. It's about Chelsea and how they punished them. They were excellent goals, excellent moves. I haven't seen Chelsea playing that well all season. That was the best I've seen them playing.
It wasn't like they had 80% possession. Like you said, Everton did okay. They had like nearly 45% possession or something like that. But Chelsea were...
No, I was looking for the mistakes again from the 7 goals, because usually, I mean, you can talk about mistakes from every other game that led to a goal, something. Yeah. But actually they didn't do a whole lot wrong. You know, I think Courtney Brosnan might be a little bit disappointed with the Sophie Ingle, Jessie Fleming and Erin Cuthbert, but I am being harsh. Like none of them were her fault. But if you get a hand to it, you should be saving it. You just like really, very fine line between, having to say nothing about her. But they weren't her fault. You'd ask your defenders, are they closing down? But in general, I would just talk about Chelsea and how good they were, their movement and how quick they were to transition. Absolutely lethal.
Should have had a Stonewall penalty as well. Could have been
penalty on Lauren James. It was actually very similar to the Champions League one she got in the final minutes against Lyon. But yeah, should have had a penalty as well.
Down the bottom of the table, Aston Villa 5, Reading 0. Is that the nail in Reading's coffin?
I mean, it's not. Is it? I don't know. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just looked like a team who would like seriously give it. I don't even know if it was giving up is the right thing or just like their bodies were just starting to give up a little bit on them. You know, they were just hammered by the season.
Midfield, it's basically non-existent and it's just impossible. So it's got a knock-on effect. And some of the mistakes and the passing players, not even the simplest of things, like a good angle to get a pass, switching on, like I feel a bit silly having to talk about stuff like that when you're talking about a top flight league, but there was a lot of that kind of stuff happening. And at the end of the day, it's just players not being good enough and given too big of a job in there, which I do feel sorry. I do feel bad for them, but they're going to go down.
They're the only team I watch and I'm like, pitch is too big for them or something like that, because there's so much space, even in behind their defense. You know, if you're a team that's not going to dominate possession, you might bank up and make it hard, but they get caught in behind as well as space in front of the back. There's no shape to it. And that's not.
But again, I feel like it's kind of basic coaching as well, because they were pushing their fullbacks up, which is great. They needed to do it, but you have to make sure you're organized then at the back. And they weren't. They were still playing a narrow to centre backs, and the fullbacks were going high, and they were allowing the forwards to peel off from the centre backs, where they should be marking channel side. Just little things that, again, maybe. I don't want anyone to get the sack or anything, but maybe another manager would come in and fix those little things, like what happened at Everton earlier on, what happened at Leicester.
Yeah.
Those kind of things might change.
Well, speaking of managers and possible sackings, Konchesky at West Ham, surely in trouble now. They haven't had a win in 9 games. Their last win was against Spurs in December when they had that 2-0 win.
When you say it like that, when it's like no win in 2023, it's not a great
first clean sheet of the season as well.
It's he's a West Ham legend, so I don't imagine he'll be getting the sack, but maybe he'll get reinforcements in for next season, because they have been one of the most disappointing teams for me, because again at the beginning I was like, oh, this is going to be really interesting to see, you know, the Aston Villas, the West Hams, how they get on, and they were doing quite well, and they have the players, like they've got some good players. It was good to see Izzy Atkinson start, but again, another player that needs a lot of coaching. You know, I don't know if they're getting that there, but again, like simple things like first touches, receiving priorities and stuff like that, like these are basic things that should be fixed.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because the bottom of the table has been just generally so chaotic that normally you'd look at a team who hasn't gone a win in 9 games and you'd be like, oh, you're in trouble. But every other team has just been a slight bit worse. Word as well to Melissa Phillips, who's come into Brighton and seems to be the first person to kind of start to get a bit of play out of those players. So hopefully with having the summer to kind of work with them a bit more, bring in some players that she wants to see, she could do something good. I mean, she did great things at London City this season. They were kind of up there for possible promotion for a good part of the season. And the only game we haven't really touched on this part is Arsenal 1, Leicester 0, but we did talk about that a bit during the team of the week. And yeah, I think relief was the general feeling. Much like you were saying, Emma, I kind of had that idea that the team probably, with the way Leicester have been on the up and the fact that Arsenal had such a tough time in the Champions League, it did kind of just feel like one of those games you needed to scrape through, and almost getting that 1-0 win was as important as if they'd gone out and scored 3 goals or something. It was just proof that the team can keep rolling on, especially with the news of another ACL injury in the squad, which is just not what we want to see at all. We will be back next Tuesday with another podcast for all you lovely listeners. We will be looking at the FA Cup final, and we will also be commemorating the 50th anniversary of the women's national team as well, because we do love us some Irish football. And since all the WSL games are midweek, we thought it would be a good opportunity to tell some stories and shine some light on some of the great people that have got the squad this far. Emma and Karen, thank you very much for joining me this week.
Thank you.
And yeah, we will see you all again next Tuesday.
The COYGIG Pod on OTB Sports in association with Cadbury. A player and a half deserves a glass and a half of support.